me hypo, and I'm like, sorry about that. Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and today we're going to do another members panel. So if you guys want to join the panel, consider becoming a member. The button should be like, it should be like around where the subscribe button is. There's a join thing. And then from there, you can join the panel. But besides that, I just wanted to like hang out with you guys, talk about some Marvel. But what have you guys got? And what's up, Cameron? How you doing, my brother? So if there's anything specific you guys would like to talk about, go ahead and drop it in there. Whatever you guys want. And again, if you guys want to actually join the panel and come hang out, the join button's right there. But what questions do you have for that? Could be anything about Marvel, DC, really, whatever you guys think would like to be anything you guys would like to have answered, whatever you guys want. Whatever you guys would like, whatever questions you guys want, we can talk about that. Anything in terms of like DC, Marvel Comics, whatever like topics that you guys would like to discuss. But first off, there is like a bunch of news. So in one of the summaries for Trinity, it looks like Trinity's finally going to meet her mother, and then Diana's going to die, which like King. Right. All right. So, do you think the Ironheart show will fix the damage of the comics of Humans? Not no, because here's the problem: she should not get a show. Period. Because honestly, she was a side character in a Black Panther movie. Here's the thing: Marvel is going through the all new, all different BS era yet again, which I can't believe they really are repeating those same mistakes. Like you got to be kidding me. That's your sales plummeted in 2016, 2017 because of this exact thing. There were other reasons behind Marvel like almost collapsing at that era, but you guys know what I'm saying there. But I'm just like, the hell is going on with this? It is like completely stupid. But it's honestly like one of the really dumb stuff. What other what do you guys think about like Ironheart? Because again, I still don't think it's going to work because she's not a character that I think is going to like last. Fair. I guess they're thinking since it's the MCU, the general audience won't have the same reaction. It's kind of weird. Well, yeah, on that, it's like this is not the time to be releasing a bunch of D-listers because every time they do that, it royally fails. Like, look at how many Marvel projects have come out since Endgame that have been about like the Z-listers that haven't gotten the general like Marvel excitement that they kind of need. Karen says, "I've been saying that they leaked leaked into the Masters of Evil and West Coast of leaned into the Masters of Evil and West Coast Avengers a bit. We would not have this problem." Well, it's not just that. They killed off the Avengers that people cared about, like Iron Man and Captain America, and then they did the whole swap. But again, when they did that in the comics, it completely blew up in their faces, like completely. Because again, Marvel had this idea that for some reason they got this into their ideas that like people will pick up the Captain America book no matter who has the shield, or they'll read Iron Man no matter who's in the suit. And I'm like, that worked for like a one-off thing, but they represented it like that was the permanent thing. It's like even with Laura Kinney Wolverine. I'm sorry. When people think of Captain America or Iron Man or Wolverine, they think of Logan, Tony, and Steve. They do not think of Riri Williams, who, by the way, if they wanted a black female like derivative of Iron Man, they could have used Rhodes' daughter, because he does have a daughter, but He Who Must Not Be Named would not get like the credit. Oh, he's so progressive. He invented he invented the Black Iron Man, the Black Iron Man character. But I go, guess what? No, he didn't, and it's really stupid because you already have these characters. You don't have to replace stuff. I don't know what is Marvel's problem with this. It also creates a problem with bringing Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Like, how many stories are you planning to do? Well, that's the other thing. Here's the thing about the Fantastic Four. I don't think they're going to, that's going to work as well as Marvel thinks it does, because here's the problem with that. With that, it's like, the problem is, it's like, the Fantastic Four don't have the best record when it comes to movies. When it comes to like when it comes to even comics as well. I know they're Marvel's first family, but ultimately it like doesn't like line up that well, I don't think. So then you get to like the X-Men. And here's the thing. You're still, I mean, the X-Men have a better record. Hang on, the picture is like drooping. The X-Men have a better record, but the problem is, it's still very spotty because of like the Phoenix movies and such. So it's like, honestly, what they should just do, use the multiverse, recast Tony and Steve, and just bring back Savage Hulk, not like stupid smart Hulk, or and give Thor an actual movie, and then guess what? You're good to go. You will get success if you do this. The problem is Marvel is much too like proud to admit they're wrong, because they're like, we're Marvel. We can do whatever we want because people are like climbing over themselves to write for us. So I'm just like, that's why Marvel has this reputation of just abusing their creatives, whether or not that's Peter David or any of the other guys. That's why. That is really why, because it's like they have this opinion where, again, because they're like the industry leader, they don't have to take care of their creatives. It's like, it's to the point where it's a problem when like Ed Brubaker is paid more for his cameo in like the Winter Soldier than for, I don't know, inventing the Winter Soldier character, the persona that Bucky uses in this movie. Are you kidding me? Is that really what you're doing now? Is that really how we're rolling with this, Disney, like, and Marvel? Like, oh my God, can we just like take care of your creatives? Because if you take care of the creatives, they're going to have more of an incentive to create stuff that you can then turn into movies. That's what Marvel's not understanding. And what these companies don't get, yes, the comic book company is like it's chump change. I get that. But what they don't realize is that when you cultivate it and then it grows and gets healthy and people are more are like incentivized to create stuff, that they're essentially creating cool like movie material like Infinity War, Endgame. It's like that was why do you think so many of those Marvel movies that came out in the early days were so good? Because they were created from stories that people had a significant, like, you could say, incentive to create that stuff. It's not there anymore. Now, is it there at DC? I'm not sure. But my point is, it's like with Marvel, this is the problem when you have a company that's too big for its britches, which it absolutely, they are way too big for their britches here. Like, remarkably well. Like, not well, but you guys know what I mean. You know what I mean. But so what other cues do you guys have about like Marvel and how it like works? Let me know, because I've got a long time. I actually, speaking of Marvel, ordered the omnibus for Kelly Thompson's Captain Marvel because I've enjoyed Absolute Wonder Woman so much, and I enjoyed the first trade of her Black Widow run. So I'm just gonna get a bunch of Kelly Thompson books. I think she's rapidly becoming ascending the ladder to one of my favorite comic book writers. Because if you can make Absolute, if you can like repair Wonder Woman like you have, if you can make Absolute Wonder Woman work, I am sorry, you deserve my money. Like, wow. But by the way, also, what type of Marvel content would you guys like to see on the channel? Because I'm thinking of incorporating a lot more Marvel content as well. I kind of need to. Right. Who is a good Marvel comics writer for you right now? Well, Kelly Thompson for one. Jonathan Hickman, I really like. Bear in mind, TMO, when you're reading a Jonathan Hickman book, that's the one that you have to give it time, because he's the writer that will like set up small things step by step. But then when you get like the full book, like Avengers and New Avengers, you get like so much great stuff in there. Then there's also, I would say, there's not a ton of really good writers right now. I mean, if you want a good Marvel writer to check out, Kelly Thompson, Peter David, and on some books, Jason Aaron. There were a few books that are actually really good. One thing always about Marvel is why do you think they're afraid of marriages? Well, yeah, I think it's because Marvel has this phobia because they're like, it like ages the character, which to a certain degree DC has this issue as well, which is why ultimately they'll never marry anyone else other than Superman. The reason why they married Superman was first off because they had to redo a story, so it's not like it was for synergy with a cartoon with the Superman Lois and Clark show. And then what happened was, as soon as they married them, they regretted it because it's like that immediately like that immediately limits all the stories that you can tell. And honestly, I would not be surprised if we get to a time when DC unmarries Lois and Clark permanently. I mean, that's partly why John exists, is to keep them married. But it's like, because eventually they'll realize, okay, guys, we need to actually like care about these characters, because we're clearly not. We are clearly not. But in terms of Marvel, again, it goes down to that. It's because you have too many writers that don't like marriages, particularly with Spider-Man, which again is kind of stupid. But then it just goes on to like a lot of like it comes into the same issue, and this is why I covered Mary Jane and Peter with Brit on Super Wonder, because that's the same thing. They broke them up and like shat on the relationship, that because it was all the writer's nostalgia. That's what it was. And yes, Cameron, that's why the marriage happened. That is why they did the story, because they wanted to like synergize it with the show. I can call Hickman the best comic book writer of the 21st. Yeah, he really is. All you have, and the X-Men thing, dude, was not necessarily his fault. He just got, once they got the X-Men on the island, none of the writers wanted to do what his plan was, which is stupid, but still. But I have yet to read a Jonathan Hickman book that's bad. Like Alien Avengers is great. I've heard his Fantastic Four is great. I got to read that. I got to read the rest of his Avengers. He's the one that created the Black Order from Infinity War. That was him. And what other Hickman books? He's done Shield. He's done. There's a lot of Jonathan Hickman. Honestly, this is the one thing I'll agree with Tom King on. Hickman belongs at DC, because Hickman gets like those he writes characters like they're gods on Olympus, and Tom King writes characters like they're street people, although mentally ill street people. But that's why, honestly, if DC was like, if Marvel and DC could like trade creatives, I'd go, can you guys trade and Marvel takes Tom King? Because that's also like the point when he got like a lot of like praise. Have you talked to Hickman? I want to. I really want to. I'll try and get him on for sure. On your Marvel question, I would like to hear your thoughts on the X-Men and how is the idea of Marvel limiting them, and should they? So there's a lot in there. So I'm going to try and approach this one by one. So as for my thoughts on the X-Men and like where they are, I think the problem with the X-Men is that they don't work in the Marvel universe, because here's the problem. All right. Because you're telling me that people have problems with like Cyclops, let's say, because he shoots eye beams. And then you have like, so you have that, and then you have like Thor, who's the god of thunder, or Johnny Storm because he lights himself on fire because of cosmic rays. You hate the mutant, but you're fine with someone that got their powers through cosmic rays. It doesn't line up logically from that, which is why if I were in charge, I would make the X-Men their own universe. I wouldn't try and fit them in, because ultimately and logically they don't work. And yeah, I definitely think they should be in their own universe. Krakoa missed some points. You know, the X-Men are a little worse than they were before. I left X-Men to Krakoa. Yeah, I tried to follow Dawn of X, but yeah, it really got really boring for me. It's like, again, it's the sad part is that the X-Men comics were languishing until Jonathan Hickman came in with House of X, Powers of 10. And then they literally dropped the ball so hard. It's unbelievable that something so like it's so like horrible that so you're telling me that that's how like that's how you do it? I don't get this. Who would you talk to at Marvel? I have talked to Mike Barron. I've talked to, who else have I talked to at Marvel? I'm going to go through my YouTube channel and go to my interviews so I can see who I talked to that worked for Marvel. I think Chuck Dixon did at one point, but let me see. And while I'm doing that, go ahead and drop some more questions for me, guys. All right, so because I have an entire playlist, by the way, of all of my interviews. It's more a fear of replacement. They are fine with mutants and literal gods, but their enemies bring up the fear of genetically. It's like, but they should know. Don't trust like, because the X-Men have saved the world like so many times. It honestly, again, Nemo, it's like that's like, that's an idea. I get it, but it doesn't work. It just falls apart so hard when like I go with that. It's really ridiculous. let's see. In terms of Marvel, yeah, Mike Barron, Chuck Dixon. I've talked to who else? I have actually talked to Comic Explain, by the way, on that. Obviously, I had Comic Historian on the channel back when he was alive. R.I.P. brother. All right. Plus, can we really keep doing the whole idea of mutants will never be accepted? And no, they should rule the humans. We can coexist. Let's just create our own island. It keeps going back and forth. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like that was the other thing about this. When you go to like when you have like them trying to integrate, but then they're like, no, you need to essentially have a like and have your own island, even though that's not what the dream is, and we're going to turn you into super villains. Nemo says, my point of view is to create another similar universe, but they got their rights. They can assimilate and everything, but try to bind it less to the status quo of the real world. Well, what they really ought to do, again, is just put the X-Men in their own universe, because it really, like, when you look at, like, the logical inconsistency, it is, like, severe. Like, yeah, do something with a space race and people trying to explore the galaxy, take inspiration from Warhammer and X-Men Inferno. Interesting. That could be something pretty fun. But yeah, I still say just make them a separate universe, because they will never be able to work with the main universe, honestly, because you get too many of those logical inconsistencies, and I'm like, no, that doesn't work. It just doesn't. But so what other questions do you guys have in terms of Marvel movies, Marvel comics? We can even throw DC in there if you guys want to talk about DC as well. So just throw that in there. DC Marvel crossovers, which we'll be talking about that tonight for CLD. So be on the lookout for that. That's gonna be fun. You mean evolve? Oh, you mean the word evolve? Potentially immune to certain, potentially immunity to certain evolution. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying there. Oh, in the universe, humanity seems to dominate and only allows heroes it tolerates. You could do that, but they need to like establish that exactly. Timo says, I'm still in awe at the moment in Secret Wars, where Molecular Man rewrote reality for Miles Morales to have a happy life in 616, just because Miles gave him a burrito. This is the best way to fit a character from an alternate universe in the main one. I disagree, because here's the problem with that. They kept Peter Parker alive. The reason why Miles worked as Spider-Man in his universe, because there was no other Spider-Man, because ultimately he kind of competes with Peter. And that's really the problem there. It's like, if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to make it like logically work, you shouldn't have brought him over. You just shouldn't have. What more do you guys got? Okay, evil plans and schemes is the biggest reason why the Empire wants them removed. The X-Men could be doing a similar thing. They're doing the main timeline. Yeah, it's true. It's just you need to, like, because again, would that be like similar to the main Marvel universe? Because they're not gonna. I get the feeling that the Ultimate Universe is gonna be the only alternate reality that Marvel does. They can't stack in all these realities. After thinking that the Titans with the gun wants to create. If we do get Slade and they do the Judas yeah, they're not gonna do the stupid like Slade, Wilson, and Tara thing. Thoughts on Iron Man's characterization in Civil War in the comics? Yeah, that was something. Let me put it to you that way. Well, like the problem with Iron Man in there, and it's the same problem I have with Carol in Civil War 2, is that Tony went way too on the other end. Because here's the problem. When the problem with Civil War, in many ways Injustice, and I mean this both Civil Wars as well, it didn't like allow for nuance, because there is nuance into this. Because when you look at Cap's argument in Civil War, it was because it wasn't necessarily the registration that was the problem. It was you're going to send us after our friends like they're criminals. No, we're not going to do that. That was the issue. But the book like oversimplified it to, no, we're not going to sign a piece of paper. And I go, but that's not the argument. Same thing with Civil War 2. Civil War 2, it's like, okay, so we can it's thought crime, but it's pre-crime. But I'm like, wait a minute here. He gets stuff wrong. Why are you trusting him? But it got really like absolutist, and this is one of those things where you really can't do that. You just can't. Honestly, Miles has the potential to have his own universe. Yeah, that's what they did. I mean, we'll see. That it would be a good idea for them to put him on the, but again, that's the same problem. There's already a Spider-Man, and you're not gonna kill off Ultimate Spider-Man, the one that everyone loves right now. Not even Marvel is that stupid. Or at least I hope they're not. I really hope they're not. But then again, this is Marvel we're talking about. And as I always say, don't ever underestimate Marvel's like capacity to screw stuff up, because they will find some way to royally piss off the fans. No matter what they do, they're always doing something that the fan base is like, but we don't want this. What are you doing? We don't want this. How do you think a heroes versus the government should go? Because I like, for their part, this be complex, whose side are you on, instead of the master villain. I would say, we talk about how I think it would go, because what I think would be, in terms of like heroes versus the government would not be able to last. Shield cannot take on every single superhero. That's why they had to like deputize a few of them. So I really think I think the government wouldn't do anything because they can't arrest the superheroes. We saw this in the Civil War game. Best Iron Man love interest. There were a few. There's Pepper. There's also Emma Frost, because I enjoyed in the recent comic where they had them get married and stuff. That was actually really cool. I definitely enjoyed that one. TMO says, you saw the meaning of Ultimate Invasion between the lines, how Hickman mocked Donny Cates with a head injury. No, he didn't. He didn't. He wasn't mocking Donny Cates. And reshaping the Marvel Universe. No. Because first off, he thanked Donny Cates for like putting in the effort, and a lot of what Hickman is doing is what Donny would have done. So it's not he's not mocking Donny Cates at all. I highly doubt that. Could be wrong, but it just doesn't make sense to me personally. Who should Doctor Strange be in the Ultimate Universe? Should the X-Men have Charles Xavier be the same too? I would say you can make Charles Xavier more of a freedom fighter. Like, have him be, for lack of a better term, you could have him be like Magneto, but not do the extremist, like, evil Magneto, like, moves. But he could be like, you could have it be like like for Charles, again, he's more of a freedom fighter. Whereas when you get to like Doctor Strange, they could have him be like more of like a high like a techno guy, because any science sufficiently advanced has the appearance of magic. So you could kind of go with that. Let's see what else. Could an Illuminati work for DC, or is it too above them? I mean, well, here's the thing. If you read the Brad Meltzer Justice League run, they kind of had an Illuminati with what's the word? With the Trinity, where if they retconned that like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman were behind the formation of the Justice League like the entire time, which was really cool. And what's up, Pojo? How you doing, dude? I'm not the fan of the current Hulk. Ironic since I love him when I write horror comics. After this run, can they go back to the basic like the Peter David era? They should. They should 100%. I feel kind of like because the Immortal Hulk run was like popular enough, like to the point where it was outselling Batman, they're kind of going to go in that direction for the future. I wish they were. I kind of wish I'm with you that they would go in the back to the regular like Hulk direction, but I don't know. We'll see. Marvel's not really known for taking the fans' feedback, as we know as Spider-Man fans. The Krakoa version of himself combined with his old traits. Yeah, like if they had taken the Krakoa Xavier, but didn't make him like immoral or like on the like almost evil, you wouldn't have had as much of a problem. Like, well, you would have still had some problems, but it would have been less of a problem in terms of like the like position of like the X-Men stuff. I think so. How do you feel about Lindsay and Kelly? They have a lot of bad jobs, but keep getting a lot of work. You mean Jackson Lansing? I don't. I'm not sure if I read their. Oh, you mean Joe Kelly? Joe Kelly has had some fun stuff. Joe Kelly has some fun stuff. I don't know about the other individual. Wait, they had kind of the concept. Actually, you know what? Here, I'll pull this up. Let me do this because what Marvel did, I mean DC did. They didn't call it the Illuminati, but here's the thing. It essentially fulfilled that role. And what I mean by that, I'm just going to go, okay, Brad Meltzer, Dwayne McDuffie, Justice League. Let me get that. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, who's your favorite Marvel artist and DC artist and writer should join the Ultimate Universe or main universe for Harry Potter? Who is your favorite Marvel artist? And okay, if you're talking about who's my favorite Marvel artist right now, I would have to say there's not a lot of Marvel art that I'm really enjoying, but in terms of like artists who ever work for Marvel, I kind of gotta go with it depends on the character because hang on. Okay, I figured I'd grab some Omnis to show you guys this. Obviously, you got Alex Ross, who did this cover of the Winter Soldier as Captain America. I really loved that. Then you get to Ed McGuinness, who basically did Heroes Reborn, which is if the Justice League were like Marvel characters, essentially, with the Squadron Supreme. And then you have David Finch, who did Moon Knight. I really love that. So those are kind of my favorite Marvel artists. In terms of which DC artist I think should go check out Marvel, I would have to say probably if I had to pick one, Hayden Sherman. Probably, I think he would do really well. I want art and great stories. Imagine Alex Ross creating a story with Jonathan Hickman. Oh yes, that would be really good. Netho Diaz is probably one of the best current Marvel artists. He just had an exclusive deal. I'm proud to know him. Okay, so let me see his stuff. So, I'm trying to pull up some of his like stuff there. All right, so let me find a good page for this so we can like really see it. All right, here we go. Let's try this. Present, share screen. There you go. And yes, that actually does look really good. Like, yeah, it's very high energy and stuff. This is one of the occasions again when the art is great, but the story is not necessarily as good because yeah, a lot of the X-Men books are just not like up to par with a lot of stuff. But as far as like art perspective, yeah, he's great. He is 100% there. What other cues do you guys have? Oh, I have what's been going on with DC Black Label. I heard from that in a while. They've been kind of going away from Black Label as far as I know. There hasn't been like a lot of stuff there. I wish they would, but he says I have all that in my books. I'm doing a trade collection. I'll definitely check out the Mythicals trade for sure. I fell behind, but I will definitely check that out 100%. Because I enjoyed issue 1, so I'll be sure to check that out. That's cool. You're up to the a trade like scale. All right, Daredevil Black, yeah, not bad. I like that one. Oh yeah. With the black costume for Daredevil, yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's the black armor Daredevil. Yeah, that looks dope. I love that. What black labels do you think could do it be interesting? Well, I'd like if they make the entire Tom King run on Wonder Woman a black label book so we can ignore it because that's the fun part about like black label. If they don't if it like screws with canon, they can just eliminate it from continuity. No problem. The first ones are available for free on Global Comics. I'm gonna put the throwing up in August. Yeah, and I can vouch for that. Hojo does great stuff. Infinite Crisis 20-year anniversary. It's coming soon. Really great news. Yeah, Infinite Crisis is my favorite Crisis. I'm going to tell you that because it is like really, really, really emotional. Not in terms of Wonder Woman because Wonder Woman's problem is that they make it where okay she's not human, but then I go what? But as for like it as a story, yeah, it's really good. Like that's where Superboy Prime punches reality, and that's how Jason Todd comes back to life. I always found that very funny. How that's how Jason comes back to life. Like that's new. Well, what other cues do you guys have for me to answer? I bought the audio book. Oh, for Infinite Crisis, that's cool. I know they had an audio book. King had written Marvel after his Great Vision. What character would you want him to create? Had you mean if they had gone into Marvel? I mean, if you mean what character would I want him to write? Probably not Captain America. I would say give him a depressed character, like maybe Moon Knight or something like that, or like Wolverine. You give him the hyper violent characters that like fit more of his titles. Oh yes, I'm also including a 12-page movie. And he got dope. I can't wait. I like that. Yeah, exactly. I hate typos, dude. I hate typos. But yeah, so King is the writer that really just writes well when it has a kid. Marvel should try the same with its own stories. Do you believe Marvel should try and recreate their stories like anime or films covering each scene beat for beat? They're never gonna do beat for beat. They're never gonna do beat for beat, Nemo, because you can't expect that with movies. It's just not gonna happen. I wish it would, but it's not likely because of all the really because of a lot of the stuff in the comics is not going to like work that well per se. So let's get a couple more questions and then we'll log up. Why do you think Moon Knight has been lucky to have good authors throughout its entire appearance? Daredevil, I've had really great runs, and I am like, what the heck? How does this? It's I've never read a Moon Knight book I didn't like. I've never read a Daredevil book I didn't like. There's like so much good stuff there. Mostly back issues, but it's mostly good stuff. That's the funny part. It's mostly back issues. But it's kind of cool. That there are some characters that writers just get. It's really easy to get like Moon Knight or Daredevil in terms of that's like they're very easy characters that a lot of writers for some reason understand. What other questions do you guys have? And then I will wrap this up because I got to get prepped for CLD, as a matter of fact, in a little bit. The CLD tonight, we're going to be discussing the new Marvel DC crossovers, probably some of the movie news, some comic stuff, and yeah. But while you guys get your last questions, Mario Hojo, let's have you on the show real soon, brother. As for Comics League, so movie night, I'll DM Heat actually right now and ask him what's his pick for movie night. Let me just do that real quick. Okay, so we got that. And in terms of Super Wonder, Britt and I are going to compare Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship to Black Bolt and Medusa. And then see what else. Oh, maybe the authors like to write breakthroughs with the personalities of Moon Knight, and thanks to this they noticed that Batman's most popular enemies up to Joker's Two-Face almost everyone wants to write their own story about him. That could be a point, Timo. I get that. But as for the rest of Comics League, so Super Wonder likes these tomorrow at 9 p.m. live. And then I have my Wonder Woman Amazon Answers Q&A on Sunday. And then, let's see, what else? And then Wonder Woman Wednesday. And then Under Two Capes. Robert and I are going to be talking about Heroes Reborn, the old Marvel event, and the new one. The old one is when Marvel almost rebooted their universe. The new one is when they turned the Marvel universe into the DC universe. It's really good. But so that's what I got. If you guys don't have any more questions, I guess I'll start wrapping this up. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe at the button below, and be sure to become a member, because if you become a member, you get access to not only the the Wonder Woman Wednesday episodes a day early, you also get access to it. You also can join the panel and hang out with me on these. And let's see what else. And you guys get access to like my reading log and all that stuff. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod, Zois, and Max About for life. I will see you later. Bye bye.